Hey YouTube, this is PokéCastXVll here, and today we'll be taking a look at the third installment of our How to Play series for the Final Fantasy trading card game. Again, this is a series, so if you haven't already, I'd highly recommend checking out the previous two videos first to get you up to speed as to where we are right now. All the links will be in the description box below. Today we'll be looking at how to set up a game and the various different steps of playing. As you can see here, we have a basic TCG mat for the Final Fantasy trading card game. Here is where your deck should be, and just beneath it is the break zone. In other TCGs, you may refer to it as the graveyard, drop zone, or even the discard pile, but in short, this is where any cards that you use during your turn go, or once a backup or forward has been destroyed. On the far left hand side, we have the damage zone. If you do receive damage during the game, you simply take the top card of your deck and place it in the damage zone, and once you receive 7 damage, you lose the game. Along the bottom here is where your backups go when they come into play, although keep in mind that you can only have a maximum of 5 backups at once, and just above it is the section where you place all your forwards. There is no restriction as to how many forwards you can have in play at once. Keep in mind that to play things, you're going to need to generate CP first, which is all covered in my previous videos. Now that we have a basic understanding as to where all the cards are placed, let's take a look at the individual phases of the game. To begin with, you have your active phase. During this phase, you simply activate any cards that you have on your side of the field which were in a dull position, meaning that you can use them again on your turn. Of course, if it is your first turn, then you won't activate anything as you won't have any cards in play. Next, we have the draw phase where you draw 2 cards. However, if you are the first player going first within the game, then you only draw the single card. Following that, we then have what's called main phase 1, in where you can play down any backups or forwards that you want, subject to generating the correct amount of CP. Of course, your primary goal for the most part will be building up backups to generate CP for the bigger forwards later game, not forgetting that a lot of them have decent effects as well that will help you enhance your position. Once you finish your first main phase, you can then move on to the attack phase, when you can then deal damage to your opponent. Remember, much like backups in the main phase, once you attack, you then have to dull that card to show that it's been used, unless of course you have a forward with the Brave trait. If you'd like a more in-depth look at traits, then be sure to check out my second video in the playthrough series. When dealing damage to your opponent simply takes the top card of his or her deck and places it in the damage zone. Although if that card has an EX burst, the effect automatically activates and you don't have to pay the cost. If it is your 7th damage and you do get an EX burst effect, the effect doesn't activate regardless, as you would have already lost the game by that point. The only issue that you have with dulling forwards is that you can't then block with them on your opponent's turn, so you have to be careful as to how many forwards you choose to commit with, as you don't want to leave yourself open for receiving damage. Let's take a brief look at blocking and how we calculate it. Let's say you're attacking with a Cloud which has an 8k attack. If they choose to block with something lesser than your 8k, say a Tifa which only has 4k attack, they wouldn't then take any damage. Their Tifa would be sent to the break zone, and then that Tifa would deal 4k to the Cloud that was attacking. Once the damage calculation has been applied, your Cloud will then only be left with 4k until the end of the turn. For instance, 8k minus 4k equals 4k, and vice versa. If your Cloud blocks a Tifa, Cloud would then still be alive, but only with 4k remaining, and your Cloud could then block again, but it would only have 4k to block with if your opponent decides to attack. If you're attacking with 8k and your opponent blocks with something that has higher attack, say like a card that has 9k, your card would then immediately be destroyed and the damage will still be applied to the card that is blocked, in this case leaving them with only 1k left. Remember that if you have a forward that blocks, it doesn't then dull, meaning that you can block as many times as you would like, as long as you still have attack points left. You then, if you've attacked, have the option of a main phase 2 should you want to place down any more backups in play, or perhaps even play some summons or some forwards. Summons are quite flexible in that you can play them at any point during your turn, and even on your opponent's turn. However, a main phase 2 is exactly the same as a main phase 1, although the state of the game may have changed, which is why you have the option of a main phase 2. And finally, your end phase, where all the damage on your forwards are then removed, whether that may have been applied through summons or attacking. The last thing to keep in mind is that you can only have a maximum of 5 cards in your hand, and having more during the end phase means that you have to discard until you are down to 5. And at that point, your turn is complete, and you then pass over to your opponent. And so there you pretty much have it. That is step 3 of my playthrough series, and if this is the first one that you've stumbled across and would like to get up to speed, then be sure to check out my first 2 videos on the How to Play series. Also, not forgetting that I now am on Facebook, so be sure to go over and give it a like if you would like to keep more up to date with the channel. Otherwise, it leaves me to say thank you very much for watching, and if you would like to check out some Pokemon related content, then by all means feel free to check out my channel. Otherwise, again, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all next time.